Welcome in to the OKS Youth Ministry Podcast, where three of the OKS Youth Ministers talk about youth ministry. I'm Michael Deese, and I'm joined by the illustrious Jeremy Crow and the not-so-illustrious Hunter Puckett. What's up, fellas?
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah?
I don't want to be in the same category as Jeremy.
I also will take that as a compliment because I am illustrious.
That's right. That's
I've got to look that word up later and see what it means.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm offended or not yet.
Jury's still out. But guys, today we have a very special episode. We have interviewed Miss Rhonda Zorn Fernandez with Lads Leaders, and what you're about to hear is this interview with her.
We are, again, at the M2Y Conference, and we're glad to be a part of this. And we are lucky enough to have Miss Rhonda Zorn Fernandez here, the daughter of the man himself, Jack Zorn. And we're glad to have her here. She is going to talk to us about Lads Leaders, which I think all three of us participated in growing up. So, tell us a little bit about Lads Leaders for those that may not know or may have questions about it.
Well, Lads to Leaders is the largest, longest-running Christian organization that trains leaders in youth. And actually, you can be involved in Lads to Leaders from 3 to 103 is what we say, joking around. It's a family event. It's something the entire church can be involved in. And it's pretty amazing. It started with just a handful of young men in Warner Robins, Georgia. It was started by Dad when I was a little girl. And then it proceeded on through the years, and then girls were added to it when I was in high school. And I will never forget the first year that I got to give a speech and participate and make it where girls could be a part of it as well. And it is very large now. It's an organization that focuses on learning the Bible and learning leadership skills without any other agenda. It's a tool that churches use. And we are very large now. Since 1968, which oddly enough is the year that Heritage University was started as well, under a different name. So both the organizations are the same age.
That's pretty neat.
So now we have at this last convention, these are approximate numbers, 9,500 in Nashville. Keith Jett standing here listening to us, and he's one of our assistant convention directors. He helps us in Nashville, so he's a part of our team. About 9,500 in Nashville at Opryland. Atlanta, 2,400. Fort Worth, 1,700. Louisville, 1,200. Little Rock, 1,600. O-Town, well, I call it O-Town, Orlando, 1,750. Oklahoma, 275, Colorado, 350, Las Vegas, 200, Mid-Atlantic, 400. So those are our 10 stateside conventions. And then we have 4,000 in India, 250 in Romania, 250 in the Philippines, South Korea 200, and Guyana 100.
That is incredible. I wasn't aware of those numbers.
I had no idea it was international. Honestly.
We are all over the place, and most of our big conventions are Easter weekend and have been for a long time. But then these smaller ones are different weekends, throughout the year, but primarily real close to Easter. So,
and Jeremy and I are part of that Nashville group, and we absolutely love it. This past year, we were able to be part of the fountain singing.
The Delta.
Oh, yes.
Incredible.
We love it.
Yeah. That's amazing. And our curriculum is used all over the place, even where they don't have conventions and don't have an organization that they do in the larger places, because we have the best writers in the Brotherhood that write for Lads that are a part of our curriculum. So that's one of the things that we offer that others don't. We have 50 different things that a young person and some older people too can participate in 3 different sections. We have the year-round part, the pre-convention part, and then the convention activities themselves that are competitive. 3/4 of the things we offer are non-competitive.
So one of the things that we've been doing at Coleman is instead of trying to offer all 50, we try to find some adults that would be willing to specialize or team lead one specific thing. And so we probably offer about 20-ish of those. Not that the other 30-ish don't matter, but we want to try to enable and help those grow in those 20 areas. And so for us, we've just recently added podcast. Ironically, that we're doing this.
We did too.
But we've added podcast and the PowerPoint stuff to our events. So I'm the leader over that for our group. And we've had a few students do a podcast, and it's been a really cool thing to see our students start to kind of take ownership in that. So
Well, that's where things are headed. So,
Yeah.
and I like that you're dialing it down, because we can't do everything.
No.
You can't do everything and be effective. And dialing it down to what their skill set is and what you have the mentors to help them with is what's really important.
I know every church that I have ever worked with has had a Lads Leaders program.
Woohoo! Well, you went to some good churches.
Yeah, I have. I really have, and it's really neat because each one of them's different. They one of them never went to convention. They just did the year-round stuff and submitted that, and it was encouraging to see that. And then I moved to the next church, and they were full in, all in, 100% in. And we even did the curriculum, and we did all of the things. And man, it's a really great thing that Lads Leaders offers. And that was actually, I'm glad you said something about the curriculum, because that was something I had participated from the time I was like 10 until now, that participating in Lads Leaders. And I didn't know there was a curriculum until I taught it a few years ago with the church that I was working with.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think is the most important thing with Lads to Leaders, especially in today's world?
I think one of the things that's most relevant with Lads to Leaders is we stay out of the ditches. There's just a lot of people in all different faiths, including the Church of Christ, that are in ditches and fighting and carrying on and trying to sort things out. And we just stay out of the ditches. We are able to meet the most amount of needs, the larger group, by trying to just stay focused on providing leadership skills for learning the Bible with no agenda. That's what we're doing. And I think the second thing to mention is the biggest problem that young people seem to have today, from many resources that I've been looking at, and Andrew Itson was talking about it this weekend. Wonderful. I just have fond memories of seeing him grow up in Lads to Leaders, which ages myself. But he mentioned in a couple of his lessons the issue of identity. Mm-hmm. And young people's biggest problem right now is trying to figure out their identity. If you go up to a young person and talk to them, who are you? Sit down, tell me who you are. And they may tell you, I'm confused, I'm trying to figure it out. Or I'm not really sure, what do you mean? And they're stumbling around. Or who I am is I'm in the band and I run track. Or I'm a middle child. Or I'm from Kentucky and I play 3 sports. I'm a C student. They answer all of these type things. What Lads to Leaders does, and does so effectively, is it teaches young people their identity is in God. Their identity is they are saved. Their identity is they are saved by grace. That is something that can never change. That's something that they'll keep with them. I mean, I guess it could change, but you know what I mean.
Right.
It's not something, they're not going to be doing those same activities as a young person. In 10 years from now, when you say, who are you? A saved child of God is the answer that you want them to have at 9 and at 29, when they're not talking about they were in the band. And that's what we focus on, and that's what empowers them and what helps them move forward.
So I'll tell you, for us, I'm sure you have some favorite events. I'm going to ask you in a second, so be thinking about what's your absolute favorite event at Lads Leaders that anything that's offered. So, but for me, we had this student a few years ago when I was in North Alabama at Hebron, and he was not an incredible communicator. He was not just fantastic at writing good lessons and all that. He was nervous. He never won, never made it to winner's circle, all those things, right? But he wrote his own speeches, and then he would communicate, and they were okay. They were incredible content. I'm not going to say his name, but what I loved about it, and here's what I love about it. I know that kid is the kid that could sit at lunch and tell a friend about something about Jesus, or there's a kid that one day with his coworker in an office building talk about something about his faith because he could articulate what he believed, put it to words, and communicate it to someone else.
That's right.
And he never won first place at the convention, and it didn't matter, right? I think sometimes we get so caught up in the trophies that they're going to win or not win, and whether they made winner's circle. But man, a kid understanding how to communicate the gospel effectively with his friends and his family, to me, that's the heart of it.
Yeah, and that's what Lads Leaders offers. That's exactly
So,
what they offer.
I personally, we are very bad at this. We have not been competitive in it. I think debate is probably one of the best events Lads offers because it makes kids think deeply about both sides of a topic.
Yep.
Even if they disagree with the other side, they have to think so deeply about it in order to be able to argue both sides of it. I think that's probably the most challenging event the Lads has, and I think one of the most beneficial. But I want to know from you, what do you think is your favorite activity or event that Lads Leaders offers?
The two favorite events, hands down, one is speech, and very competitive, but it's not about the competition. And I know that people say that, and some people mean it, and some people don't. But part of what Lads teaches you with the roughly 25% of the things that we offer that is competitive is how to compete Christ-like, how to support your team. And, iron sharpens iron. And, we all compete for things in life, and I'm not talking about travel ball or the stuff that's just like crazy, but we compete for scholarships, for jobs. We compete with all kinds of things. And so to pretend like that doesn't exist, to me, I don't really relate to that. But we're very careful about how we do it, and the fact that 3/4 of the things we offer non-competitive speaks for itself. But the two favorite things I have is speech, because I think even as a woman, not only in Bible classes or in other church-related things, it helps you in life to be able to show up, give your thoughts, promote things, whether it's a PTA meeting or political event or church things, or to be able to go and stand in the gap, when you're needed to. That's incredible. The other one is Centurion Scripture.
Yeah.
And to me, was actually those two are Dad's favorite too as well. So I guess I'm a chip off the old block. But the whole meat of the program is knowing the Word and studying the Word. And I think that's a very difficult. I work with Redcoats, and I beg them, don't put those 200 verses you've got to learn for Redcoat. Don't put it at the end when you're a senior and you've got all these other things that you're trying to do, as a senior, and then you've got these 200 verses that are looming over your head, because it's hard, and it's harder for some people. Memory work is harder for some people than others. But the thing about the memory work is, we're all trying to balance, like, again, what some of the lessons that we heard at M2Y this weekend. We're all trying to balance. I think young people, I kid you not, I think they're busier than a lot of adults. Trying to juggle. I've got kids that were Redcoats that were in 3 and 4 sports, had a couple of days a week that they had a job, had family things, vacation things, trying to do Redcoat. One was trying to do Eagle Scout, trying to make honor roll, and it made it, and trying to squeeze me in for appointments to discuss their task was mind-blowing. So being able to balance. Again, we're not called to balance life. We're called to focus, gazelle focus, like Dave Ramsey talks about. Gazelle focus on our relationship with God. And learning those scriptures is what shores you up, tying you back to that identity that you are a child of God and you are saved and you are here, put on this planet to save others and to remain faithful. And that Centurion Scripture part is just a building block. And it's just something you'll always be proud of. Yeah.
I love to see whenever they announce the Centurion Scripture.
Yes.
I love, because most of these events, we're like, you got first place, we got first. But the Centurion Scripture, they're so humble when they go up there and accept the awards and they accept their, and I'm just baffled because I'm one of those ones who I can't memorize things. And when I do, it's because I have repetition after repetition, and it takes me a long time to memorize something. And it just blows my mind seeing, a 10-year-old who has memorized hundreds and hundreds of scriptures, and it's a really, really incredible thing. So.
It is.
And I'm sure y'all do this at the other conventions, but I can speak for Nashville, when y'all bring up the red coats and
Oh,
you
yes.
introduce the new ones.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's just such a great idea for that, because I have so many of my kids come back to me and go, hey, what is the red coat? Like, what do I have to do? And then I'll show them, and they're counting up like how many years they have left, like, I could get this done. Let's try and do this. And then
Yeah.
you kind of you set up this plan for them to try and finish it out.
It's fantastic, and those extra high achievers that are all in. I'll tell you this: the statistics that Steve Cottney did years ago, a former board member, he was a business owner in Birmingham, and he had his R&D department do some legit research on Lads to Leaders, and it showed if you're all in Lads to Leaders from elementary school all the way through to 12th grade, all in, not just mom wants me to do this, but really embracing the program. He did a study that showed 85% were still faithful 10 years later.
Wow.
So it is one more of a tool, and there's just nothing to compare to it.
Yeah.
Well, and that frustrates me, because parents hear that, and I tell the parents that.
Yes.
But then parents still aren't all the way bought in Lads Leaders. They see this great success, 85%. No other program is doing 85% or close to it.
That's an inverse of the way we're seeing students leave the church post high
Yes.
school. It's like 75% of students leave their faith,
75%,
and they find
yeah.
it again maybe late 20s, but for a period of time they kind of check out from their faith, and so that's a great statistic. Let me ask this, since you mentioned statistics, how often, and it seems like from an outside perspective looking in, because I'm not on a board and don't know where this is going, it seems like y'all evaluate, what worked well last year at convention, what didn't work well, what do we need to change, even things like the award ceremonies. They've looked at, like, how do we make this more efficient, how do we make this work better, what do we need to change to move to Saturday night versus Friday. How often are those kind of conversations happening amongst the board?
They never stop. Absolutely. Have you ever met my uncle? I mean, it never stops.
Constant evaluation,
It is
constant
constant evaluation. We constantly want to improve. We're constantly asking for input. We're constantly giving input that we don't always ask for. It's a big animal, but it's a well-oiled machine, as they say. And we want to stay current with the times, but then certain things will never change. We want to be predictable. We joke about saying we're the golden arches of McDonald's. You can go anywhere in the world and those fries taste the same. There's no surprises. When you get, there's, guess what? We're doing this now. Or, there's certain core things that will never change. But then there's a lot of things that we do change because we want to stay current and we want to evolve and take things out and add things as we get feedback.
Well, I know just knowing you and knowing the people that work with Lads Leaders, I know that it's a ministry of love.
Absolutely.
And, I see the hearts of the people that are doing that. And we're just really thankful that you were willing to come onto the show and talk with us for a little while about Lads Leaders, because all three of us love the program. We've done it. I mean, I've worked with kids through it. I have done it myself, and I'm a product of Lads Leaders, and I'm very proud to say that.
Well, I'm very grateful to be asked, and I'm in my dash. And what I mean by that is you take the day you're born and the day you die, and we're all in our dash right now.
Yeah.
And we all have to have a ministry. We all have to work for the Lord. And in my dash, there is nothing I can do more effective to leave a legacy to help other people become Christians and retain their Christianity than working with Lads. I can't think of anything that'd be better.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. Great discussion, great talk, and
Appreciate being
we
asked.
look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so
Get your
much.
kids registered.
And
It
if you-
opened
Yes,
up 9
yes.
days ago.
9 days
Yes.
ago, get your kids registered.
Absolutely.
And all you slacker youth ministers.
Ours are all
Call or message me. Call or message Lads to Leaders and just let us know how we can help you. And if you want to start a new group, call me up.
And I'll tell you, it's very, very easy to do that. Get in, just jump in, and it's a really great thing. Thank you so much for being on
You're
the show.
so welcome. Thank
we love
you.
you. Have a good day.
Appreciate it.
So again, if you have any questions about Lads to Leaders, you want to know more about what that might look like for your group, by all means, reach out to us here at OKS Youth Ministry, and we would try to help you get involved with that. But let me transition us here now that we're done with the M2Y conference. We're back here at the studio. let me ask you guys, what does youth ministry look like for your specific congregation? And just want to know kind of what you do to support and encourage that ministry. Go ahead, Hunter.
Well, I do it all.
Very cool.
I don't mean like
You said every
Typical youth minister.
no. What I mean is I'm in charge of the Lads Leaders kickoff. I'm in charge of getting people registered. I'm in charge of making sure that all the adults are doing what they're supposed to do. I'm in charge of making sure that everything's going smoothly, that the puppet stage gets to Lads Leaders, that just everything goes well. And sometimes it gets overwhelming. But what we've done in the past to really help it out, and I think we might have mentioned it in the interview with Miss Rhonda, but we've kind of cut some things out of Lads Leaders, and we're only offering X amount of things.
Hyper focused on those things. Yeah. You did.
And then the stuff that's just not it's not really as used or utilized, we'll say, we don't really focus on that anymore.
And that's different for every congregation, right?
Yeah,
the events that may
Yeah.
be pertinent to your group might not be pertinent to mine or yours.
Yeah. One of the things that we have started doing at our church is we've just started our year-round things, and so we have our year-round song leading. My son gets up and does "Jesus Loves Me," and my daughter, she has her song that they do, and we have 2 different rooms. The girls do theirs in one room, the boys do theirs in one room, and we have like some adult leaders that kind of lead those ministries and lead those situations. So when my son gets up, I get to be there, and I kind of help with that whenever I'm able. And then we also have a lot of our year-round events that are going on, and I've done everything from helping kids write speeches. I wrote one kid's complete speech. Basically, what I just said was.
But did he win?
He actually, I think he got second place. But what I said was, I was like, what's something that you really like? And he was like, Legos. And I was like, okay, what's something that you want this lesson, this to be about? And he was like, well, I want it to be about my mom. And so I was like, how can we make this and so we kind of put it together, and I said, is this okay? And he was like, yeah. And I think we put together about a 2-minute little speech, and I think that's what the time limit was on his. And I've done everything from that and all the way to just being able to go to the convention and just go and see as many people as possible.
So I think there's a misconception about Lads Leaders that it's all about the weekend convention, but really the year-round stuff like you're talking about is so important for kids to get these opportunities to develop in these ways. And so I think it's good to get creative with that. It doesn't have to be just a Sunday morning devotional kind of thing where the kid does that, but one of the things that we've started doing at Coleman, we do a singing at what's called the Neighborhood Assisted Living every first Sunday afternoon. One of our deacons runs that, and we've started letting our students lead some of the songs at that and incorporating that into the year-round song leading event. My son's doing like a morning devotional. We have a few different students that do like a morning devo at their school, like FCA or First Priority, that kind of thing. You can incorporate that into, have someone video it and send it to your person that runs the speech event for your congregation and let it be year-round speech. Trying to figure out creative ways to get your kids more involved with the year-round activities. So.
Well, in our last episode, it was about parents. Making sure that the parents are in and bought into this event, the conference itself, but then making sure that they're bought into the kids as well.
Yeah.
When they do go to conference, that they are participating at the conference. Parents, please, please, please help your youth minister out by judging events.
Yes.
That is our biggest issue we have every single year is we don't have enough parents judging events. Please, It does not take a lot. My last event that I judged was actually awesome. I was K through 2 song leading.
Nice.
And it was actually all of Graymere's kids. So they were all in there. And like, I don't judge anything. For that age, I'm just making sure that they're all leading a song.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I absolutely love that. And we had a blast with that. But it was cool to have like an entire church. Like it was all their kids and like all the parents and families. And that was so neat.
So for me, I've been in the role that Hunter's in right now where you're the director of your congregation's group. And so you have to do all the things. So that was back at Hebron. We had, all the activities and things, and I was getting everything lined up and doing all the registration, which is an ordeal in and of itself. Those youth ministers that do that, shout out to you because it is hard getting all that registration done. But now for me, I'm one event leader. So I lead our mass communication stuff. So podcasting and slideshows. There's other things that you can do, but we focus on just those 2. We have our students do those. My other role is when we're at the convention, I'm the hotel room key guy. Ooh. And so I go and get the hotel keys and I chase people down and get them their stuff, get them in the room. And what I do, my pro tip on that is I get the hotel key and I do not tell them they have their key. I go to the room and I check it to make sure that it's what it's supposed to be. I I make sure the air is working correctly. I make sure the toilet flushes and the sink works and the shower works. And then I call them, make sure the right beds that they're expecting,
too much
double
work.
beds or king beds. And then I call them and say, I've got your key. Because if I don't do that and something's wrong, inevitably they're going to call me back and say, well, my room didn't have this bed, or my toilet's not working, or whatever, right?
Right.
By the way, to parents, you are not insured a balcony. Don't assume that you're insured a balcony.
Yeah.
You're not. Okay, but that's a side point.
Entitlement.
But I will say, for at the convention, it's really hard for us to take on the role of judging something. I'm impressed that you judge an event, because I don't judge an event. It's not that I don't want to, but I'm trying to go to a million different places. So tell us a little bit about at convention, when you're at the weekend event in Nashville or Atlanta or wherever your convention center may be. What are you doing throughout the weekend?
Man, I'm getting up early every time, and I'm texting kids, figuring out what their times are if we don't already have a booklet that has it. Luckily we did this year. So I knew all the times of when everybody was going to be doing their things. And so I was waking up, I got coffee and I got breakfast, and then I was on the grind. I mean, I was constant, always going to one thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And I mean, it's like one after the other, after the other, after the other. And there was one time I had tried to go in to one place, and they were like, it's closed down. I was like, had to wait till they finished. And then I went inside and I realized that my kid had already given his speech. So then I was like, do I leave? I've got to go to this next thing, because I know that this person is supposed to be here,
Yeah.
And so as soon as the next person got done, I got up and then had to leave and went to the next thing. And so it is constant, one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, going. And I'm trying to just see as many and support as many of them as possible. And when they come out and they're nervous and they're saying like, well, I messed up, I stuttered when I said this, and like, well, I stutter all the time. I mess up all the time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sit through one of our Bible classes, you'll see that.
Exactly, yeah. And so, even listen to the sermon, if I'm ever preaching, that's definitely something that I'm going to do. And so just making sure that they know that they're encouraged and that they're supported. And I do that with the year-round stuff too. Every time one of my kids does a song or anything, I always send a text and I just say, something like really embarrassing. I'll say that was a skibbity riz something.
Ugh.
Text. You just send a text like that says, beast mode prayer, dude, or anything like that. They get really they think it's funny, and they come to me and talk to me about it. And
But do they?
They really, they probably think that it's not funny, but they are thankful that I said something to them and encouraged them. So
Yeah, I think the other thing is, when you come out of that room and they did mess up a point, or they said something incorrectly or whatever. One, direct them to our podcast and say, hey, we always mess up. But
Yeah.
The other thing is to say, hey, man, did you communicate something about the gospel, right? If someone was in that room, did they learn something about God's word that they didn't know before? Then you were successful, man. Who cares who wins that trophy Saturday night? Well, they do, but it's not what's important. What's important is that they're learning how to be communicators of the gospel. And
I've said several times, like, my involvement in Lads Leaders was pretty minimal, but I did do like song leading and speaking, but I wasn't the best one at either one of those things. And I wanted to be, not because I wanted to be good and be able to, be something, but no, it was because I wanted to win. Yeah. And that was the only thing that was my motivation, was like, no, I want to win, but I never could. I wasn't the best speaker. I wasn't the best song leader.
You're just the okayest.
I was just the okayest speaker and song leader. And that's, thankfully, that helped me train and practice and get better. And I was able to do those things once I was a youth minister,
Let me pose a question for you guys. What about your new families? So, like for us at Coleman, we've got, I think, 5 new families. It's their first year to do Lads to Leaders throughout the year, and it'll be their first year to go to convention. What kind of things do you do to kind of hold their hand and help them learn what this looks like when you get to the convention, or even the months leading up?
First, convention's expensive.
It is
for everybody. I'm not sure what the price difference is between Jeremy and I go to Nashville, Michael's in Atlanta. I don't know that price difference, but I'm gonna assume it's fairly close.
It's about the same,
and it's expensive. So what we've done this year, and it's not only for new families, we're allowing it for everybody. I have made a list, and it's like the kid has to be involved and the parents have to be involved. And if both sets are involved, you get like a free night. So if you're
that's
staying
awesome.
2 nights, you get a free one. And I'm glad, I'm very blessed the elders are on board with this. But it does take some effort. And within that, I'm like, hey, you need to do one of these 3 things. You need to have a speech, you need lead singing, or you need to be participate in Bible Ball, I think is what I put. And then within that, you have to travel with us to 2 places. So before we go to Lads Leaders, we're going to some smaller congregations around our area, and we do our Lads Leaders speeches and songs while we're there. They have to travel to at least 2 of those. And I also have them do some sort of Good Samaritan thing.
Yeah.
So I think bronze for Good Samaritan, I'm not going to even try to throw a number because I'm going to get it completely wrong. But I did half of that. And if you do half of what it takes to get bronze and Good Samaritan Lads Leaders, that counts towards it. But then for the parents, I said, hey, you have to judge.
Yeah.
Some parents hate judging. Well, here's the really cool thing. There are pre-convention events you can judge.
Yes.
You can look at a PowerPoint or you can listen to a podcast and judge that and not have to worry about it at Lads. Because I have one family that has 5 kids. Like I'd hate for both parents to be judging at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
But that also allows them, hey, one can do it before, one can do it after. I have it to where the person that gets our key card, she does it every single year. But that's one thing that you can do to volunteer and help out. Coordinating for an event, bringing the trailer that has our puppet stage in it and dropping it off and picking up and doing stuff like that. Heading up our hospitality suite, bringing food for the hospitality suite. There's multiple things that our parents can get involved in the kids can in order to get a free night at Lads.
Yeah.
So one of the things I started, I guess about 10 years ago, and then I've kind of handed off at least my template to you guys. I think Michael has used it maybe once or twice too, but I make a booklet every year, and they give us the big printout that has the entire schedule of the whole weekend. It has all the stuff that Lads Leaders put out and all their advertisements and all that. But I take that pre-convention, and make a booklet that's specific for our group.
Yep.
And the reason I do that is because, especially for those new people that have never been, that booklet's really confusing, and they can't figure out where their kid's supposed to be and when they're supposed to be there. And so I try to make that concise as I can. I prep it on the front end. I send it to my people that really know Lads Leaders, and they proof through it and they check it. There's always a mistake in it, but I try to catch that as fast as I can, let everybody know if there is a mistake. But it's easy to carry a little book around. And the other thing for me, at least, is a encourager of the students, kind of what you're talking about, trying to get to all the stuff and see all the kids, is if my kid is not doing said event, I can look and say, hey, we got 3 other kids in this room, and now I can go be a present parent, adult, encourager for somebody else's kid, which really matters a lot, I think.
It's really cool to see, like, with our church, when we have one of our kids leading a song, half of the people that are at Lads Leaders or more are all piled into that room to hear him do his speeches or his song. And it's just such a really cool thing, a great opportunity for those kids to know how much their church, not just how much their parents and how much their youth minister, but their church cares about what they're doing and is super encouraging to the things that they're trying to accomplish. I love it.
If anybody from the Nashville Lads Leaders is listening to this, maybe make, when we're doing song leading, make the normal song leading and winter circle closer together. That way I'm not sprinting up and down stairs the entire time. But no, I mean, and we've been we have some really good, we have really good song leaders in my youth group, and half of them are in winter circle and half of them are not. And we've gotten to the point now where Chris, the preacher, and I, one of us goes to one spot, one of us goes to the other, and we just kind of knock that out at one time. That way we're not running from Bayou C all the way back down to whatever's on the bottom left corner and going back and forth. And I tell people this all the time. You're literally running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Yeah. And you're standing outside, and I'm sitting there with my phone. I have the little map, or not the map, but the schedule of who all is where. And I'm waiting for parents to text me, hey, this kid's at this time, this kid's at this time. And if I have one kid at one, I'm going to go listen to them, and then I know that there's going to be 2 or 3 in between. And I can go run somewhere else and listen to somebody else. And it's, for the youth minister, it's a lot of running, and it's a lot of work, but it's so beneficial.
When we say running, we're not saying like we're walking fastly. We're literally running. We're actually trying to run to get to things. Yeah.
So I have an Apple Watch. The first year I ever had my watch, right? It was the first time I ever was able to track my steps, and I looked after Lads Leaders, and I arrive on Thursday, and I'm there through Sunday. I did 37 miles in those 3.5 days. 37 miles.
Rookie. That's awesome.
But it's a lot. But it's so beneficial for the kids to be able to look and see their youth minister in the crowd and see that they're there, they're supporting you.
Yeah.
And
in return,
adults.
you get support as well.
And we are always pro support and encouraging our teenagers.
Yeah.
that's something that we want to encourage. We always want to take advantage of it, and it's just important for them to know that the church has taken interest in something they're doing, whether it's song leading or whatever. Even if it's just a sport that they play. Letting the church be there and show that, hey, this is something we support, and we're really proud of you and the work that you put in and the things that you're doing and things that you're trying to accomplish. It's a really, really big deal. I know it was for me when I was involved in Lads Leaders. It was a big deal when people would tell me, I did a great job and everything.
So I'll tell you one that I love to see. This is something Coleman does really, really well, and that's really to the credit of Jeff and Susan Crane who run our program. But I love when, like, my son is 10, right, or my daughter's 8. I love when they go in to do their little activities, early elementary age students, and I see like 4 or 5 of my teenagers in the room.
Yeah,
that like gets me a little emotional thinking about it, because I love that idea of a 16, 17-year-old, instead of hanging out in their hotel room or going out in the gardens, where they're in one of these little rooms, these little classrooms or meeting spaces, cheering on an 8-year-old, and it's so cool to see. So such a good opportunity for discipleship.
Past couple of years, we've had one elder in particular and his wife. They come every single year. They don't have any kids in the youth group anymore. They're not involved in it anymore. They are involved as far as coordinators go, and they do Art Says It and the mass media, but they show up just to cheer kids on.
Yeah.
And I think that's just that's amazing, and that's what we've really pushed this year too. Is the convention itself is for everybody. Our older members, I call them the owls, older, wiser, loving souls, and even like our owls group, like they can come in and they can come and they can support other people too.
Yeah.
And it turns into a church, a community aspect.
Yeah. It's Lads Leaders is just a really good program. I mean, it really is. It's a great leadership program. It encourages kids to do better, to work on the things that they're doing, and to improve year to year, and even just through the seasons. If you're doing the year-long song leading or year-round speaking or whatever it is that you're involved in, Centurion of Scripture was one of the things that Rhonda mentioned. Doing those verses throughout the year and making sure that you have all that stuff and being prepared for that. And there are some people in our brotherhood who are just, they're killing it when it comes to this year-round stuff. Some of them go to church with me. They're doing just a fantastic job in organizing and getting all that stuff together. And it's something that, personally, I don't think I would be able to do it. I just don't. I don't think I'd be able to get all of that stuff organized as well as they do. And I just want to say, Lads Leaders is a big deal, and it's a really great event. It's a really great program. And if you're not in it, you should be.
One of the things that I think we could do better, I know that's hard to find,
nothing.
but sure.
Yeah, nothing.
One of the things I think youth ministers across the board we could do better is figuring out ways to incorporate the stuff that we're already doing in our youth ministry outside of Lads Leaders as to being a support of. And so one of the things that I've tried this year was every little service event that we did, everything we did all year, I just put a list of all of that together. And I said, if you did work camp, this is how much it was. If you washed cars at the police department, it was this. If you served at the Adults Developmental Disability Center, it's this many hours, whatever. And I sent that out to our Lads Leaders group and said, if your kid did any of these activities, here's how many hours they did. Put it towards Good Samaritan. Because they're already doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Put them into that. If there's opportunities to let them, speak in some way, or do, like right now on our Wednesday night, we're asking our young men to do a little 5-minute devotional thought at the beginning of class every Wednesday night. Steve, our preacher, has called them into that kind of role. And so one of our guys did one last night. And you know what? If he's thinking about doing year-round speech, that's going to go towards that.
Yeah.
Right? Figuring out ways that we incorporate. Teach to Teach is one of the new events. Letting a student have the opportunity to teach with our elementary age. Our children's minister is right now kind of leaning into that and getting some of our students to do Teach to Teach in her classrooms, right?
Yeah.
So there's some cool opportunities in that.
Encouraging kids, man. That's the big thing about Lads Leaders, and just letting them know that what they're doing. And we've said this on the show before. Everything that you're doing, if you're doing it for God, it's not in vain. Right. There may be some people that don't like it. There may be some people that are upset about it or whatever. It doesn't matter, because God appreciates it, and that's all that matters. And so making sure that you're encouraging your students, making sure that you're involved in this program. I mean, it's a big deal. I would like to see some statistics on people that are ministers in the church and their relation with Lads Leaders, because I'm sure it's got to be up there. But if you have any questions about Lads Leaders, you can email us and I'll get you in contact with someone. Rhonda Fernandez does a great job getting the word out and getting more people involved. And
thanks to her for taking the time for us, because it was
absolutely
really cool.
Yeah, I mean, she's on the board of the M2Y Conference as well as the Lads Leaders Conference. She's a very busy person, and she took some time to talk with us about Lads Leaders and really answer some of our tough questions that we had for her.
And if you're going to be at the Nashville convention, we are going to have a vendor booth at the Nashville convention. So OKS Youth Ministry will be there, and we're going to record a couple live episodes and some interviews with, I think, some students. So it'll be something different, but swing by and see us there.
Yeah, I won't be there. I'm going to be in Atlanta. But the okayest of the youth ministers will be there. That's for sure. Well, we appreciate you for listening. If there's anything we can do, please send us an email, oksyouthministry@gmail.com. Check out our website, oksyouthministry.com. And if there's any kind of confusion about that, I'm sure we can figure some way to get it. There's also ladstoleaders.com if you want to look into it, read about it. Their website is awesome, by the way. It has a lot of cool stuff. You can look into convention. You can look into all the different conventions they have, and it's a really cool site. So check that out. And do y'all have anything else y'all want to say before we close out?
I think that's it, man. I have personally been blessed by Lads, man. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to my kids. So
yeah, same here. It really does. It's something that I really loved when I was growing up.
Really look at that Lads Leaders website. Look at the section of about Lads Leaders and really see, not only that, but really see the history of Lads Leaders and the success that it's had over the decades.
Yeah. When you have a really well organization and convention and stuff, I mean, it really goes a long way. It's a really, really big deal. So, well, just know we are praying for you. We hope that your ministries are thriving. And if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know. We hope that your ministry is blessed. Thanks for joining us today in the important conversation of youth ministry. Go and follow us on Instagram and check out oksyouthministry.com for more information about our upcoming episodes. We'll be dropping a new episode every Wednesday morning, and we look forward to talking with you again next week. And hey, it's okay to be the OKS Youth Minister around, but let's all strive to be just a little bit better.